Hello everybody, how's it going? Hopefully y'all are having a good night. I think it's Veterans Day, isn't it? Isn't it? Like I'm British or something. Don't worry, chat, I'm not British. And I don't think I ever will be. How's it going though? I hope everyone's having a good night so far. Yes, I also had today off, which is exactly why I'm doing this stream today. Well, there is another reason, which is because we're getting the Super Mario Galaxy movie direct happening tomorrow morning. And I'm so excited, but it's gonna be while I'm at work. Like, literally, I think it'll start going live when I have to get on the bus to go to work. So while I can't do a live stream about it, that's okay, because what I'd rather do is I would rather talk about my insane harebrained predictions for what this gonna go on in this movie, because frankly I want to get them out there, and I want to be like, I want to put these ideas out there as soon as possible so that when we get more news on this, let me just make sure that hold on. Anyway, so that when we get more news about this movie, and it turns out I'm somehow right, I want to have this exact moment recorded online for everyone to see. So basically I'm doing it to stoke my own ego, but I'm also doing it because I want to talk about this movie as much as possible to help get me hyped for it. So I'm gonna change my camera real quick just so I can make sure that things are actually going well. Okay, we're good. Validation, yes, absolutely, there's a measure of validation going on, but I do legitimately also want to hear from you guys. Now, I had my brother C-Saber give me some handwritten notes about questions he wanted me to talk on, and he told me specifically not to open this piece of paper until we get to it, because he had work today, and so otherwise we would have talked it out just like the old days. For those of you who don't know, my oldest Jack the Raccoon viewers will know that a lot of my oldest videos were me and my brother talking back and forth as we played games, and we kind of wanted to do a throwback to this, but since he had to work late tonight, the idea was I do it myself for the most part, but he's here in spirit giving me questions and things to talk about. So I also wanted to give in input from you guys, try to see what questions you guys had, but before we do all that, let's go into some of what the movie entails, because I have laboriously collected all the news, pretty much everything we know about this movie going into it before today. From what I know, there's like 1 or 2 new pieces of news going on today, so let's cut the crap, let's go straight to the news so that we can all be on the same page about this movie. Because guys, I haven't been this excited in a long heckin' time, honestly. In a long heckin' time. Can you ask a question? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will get to those questions after I'm done explaining all the news. That, or I can discuss them now. It depends on the question, frankly. But let's go straight to it. No, this is not the right thing. Booty cheeks. There we go. Professional streamer, everybody. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's all right. Gosh, it is quiet though. Let me see if I can't get some music pulled up real quick. Real quick, like. Beautiful. Let me see here. You. And then, yeah. I'm just gonna put you sort of in the corner, right around here-ish. That looks about right. Maybe you guys who like do design, graphic design, will think I'm cringe for putting. You know what? You're going in the top right corner. I'm so bad at this, guys. I'm gonna be real. So anyway, let's get to the part that I am good at. Oh shoot, it's not, you guys aren't getting any audio from that. Gosh, speaking of bad, this happens like once every stream, bruh. I can't ever just have, I can't ever have something just go my way, where everyone can hear the music and everything's all right. Okay. Now that we've gotten past the 10 billion things in my way, I can finally talk about Mario. Hooray! Okay. So what we know so far about this movie, it's gonna be, well, first of all, it's called the Super Mario Galaxy movie, so it's going to be about Super Mario Galaxy. Shocking, I know. But there's a couple other things we can glean from this trailer, from the first trailer. I don't, when I tried pulling up YouTube, it wouldn't let me do it for some reason. Let me try real quick. YouTube Mario Galaxy movie. Please? Okay. Everyone silence. Because, yes. Alrighty. So here's the trailer, just so that we're all on the same page about this. It's nice, we got the yellow butterfly from Mario Galaxy. And there's a Mario World motif going on, or a light motif going on with the music so far. All the music so far up to this point is all Super Mario World themed, which leads me to believe that and with Yoshi's inclusion, there's gonna be a lot of elements from the 2D Marios in this game. This isn't going to be just about 3D Marios or whatever. There will be 2D Mario elements, but at the end of the day, it's still the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Get out of my way with all these dumb things. It's still the Super Mario Galaxy movie. That's what we're here to talk about. And the child voice actor, that's pretty cute. Okay. So, with all that out of the way, we've talked about Yoshi, we've talked about this. Miyamoto has described it as basically the main event of the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary celebration. Miyamoto said a lot of other things about this game, guys, or about this movie. He's been involved in it a lot, and his main involvement in it is just making it fun and a worthy celebration of the 40th anniversary, which means that they're probably going to be taking from a lot more of Mario history than just the 2 Mario Galaxy games. But you might be asking, what's going on here? You know, what all else is going to be involved? So this is where we get to the next bit of news we have about this movie. I'm going in somewhat chronological order, which is the Old Spice leak. Now, if you've never heard of Old Spice before, they are a deodorant brand, basically. And this shows multiple different scents, flavors, whatever you want to call it, of new deodorant scents that are being released, and they're licensed about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Now, this was like back in July when this came out, and this was back before we knew it would be called the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So when this leak came out, this leak was so old that we didn't even think it would be called the Mario Galaxy movie. So we thought this wasn't real, or at least I did. But after it was announced that it was called the Super Mario Galaxy movie, then that led to people to look into it again. And you're going to see that there's many different options here. Yes, flavors. I'm sorry, that's the wording I used. I'm sorry. No, I don't eat deodorant. I'm gonna turn the music back on. For the Smash tournament goers, yes, finally, something that can convince them to put on deodorant. But here it is. We have Lost Cove, Space Mischief. Probably gonna involve space. Wow, how surprising. The Mario Galaxy movie has space. Castle Crush. I believe this could be referring to either Peach's Castle or Bowser Castle. Crush could be like the person you like kind of crush, or Crush could be like violently smashing things crush. It has a double entente, which means I don't know what that means. Or a double entendre. But we have Cosmic Quest, interesting, Desert Detour, and then Brooklyn Bounce. So interesting that Brooklyn is again something that was specified, because Brooklyn was like a major location, I would say, in the first movie, but it's interesting the emphasis that they're putting on it in this second movie, considering that at the end of the first movie, Mario animated movie, spoilers, Mario and Luigi moved to the Mushroom Kingdom. So it's interesting that they're going back to Brooklyn for some reason. Maybe they visit between the two places often, who knows? Food for thought. Desert Detour, featuring Luigi and a Toaster Rainin. That's the skeleton here. Is very interesting because, as you can probably imagine, yeah, I don't know, Luigi being prominent in the desert. You want to know who else is prominent in a desert? Why would they give so much focus to a desert area if it's just going to be talking about Mario Galaxy? Even though it's probably not. And this is where I'm going to go into like my first big prediction about this movie, is that it's going to involve Princess Daisy somehow. And I think Luigi is going to do some traveling in the desert, maybe with Donkey Kong or some other characters, maybe Toad. And they're going to have adventures with Daisy in the desert, Sarasa Land. Maybe not Sarasa Land particularly, but just a desert. So that's one of my thoughts. And then maybe we could have like a weird C plot involving Donkey Kong and Brooklyn. I'm less confident about that because that's where like Pauline is. That's my thought on it. And they've been doing a lot of Donkey Kong and Pauline stuff with Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I don't know. I think that'd be cool. Not putting a lot of stock in it. I do definitely think that about the Luigi and the desert, though. That is something I'm pretty confident in. Brooklyn Bounce featuring Yoshi seems interesting, though. Maybe Yoshi gets set loose in Brooklyn or something, and they have to catch Yoshi at first. I don't know, that would be interesting. But yes, these are other thoughts. Some people have said that the Koopalings might appear in this movie. I think that would be interesting. A part of me thinks that's too much, although a part of me thinks that with how much happened in the first Mario movie, that's right up this movie's alley. All right, let's move on to the next piece of news. And this is more about why we've been very cautious about leaks. Because since in the period of time within the first Mario movie and the second Mario movie, this new one, the Mario Galaxy 2, people have been using AI a lot more, which means that people have been using AI and stealing other people's art, as far as I'm aware, to create fake leaks. Now, this is a fake leak involving Rosalina and what people thought concept art for Rosalina would look like from the Super Mario Galaxy movie. One reason why this had everyone, like, why this had a lot of people convinced for so long was because, number one, like, I don't know, this just, it kind of just looks nice. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this looks like good concept art in my mind. I know people are just like AI bad, and I agree that using AI and stealing other people's art is bad. You don't have to lecture me about that. That is something we can agree on. However, this in particular image looks pretty good on first viewing, but it is AI. The creator of the image came out and talked about how he I think he borrowed somebody else's Rosalina model that they made, like just a fan thing of like what Rosalina might look like, and then they did a bunch of like AI stuff to it, which is kind of scummy if that's true, but they definitely did use AI in that. That is confirmed. So that's not a real leak. Don't believe that. But man, like the day and a half where people thought this might be real, it looks pretty good. If Rosalina looked somewhat like that and was interpreted like, was that expressive in the movie, I would like that personally. And that's just my own opinion. But now we have the direct announcement going on, and I want to take a look at this picture because, I mean, it's such a cute picture, dude. Let me open it in the new tab. You got, okay, so a couple details have been pointed out to me about this. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So first of all, these 4 toads on the boat in the back are the same colors of toads, the 4 toads that make up Captain Toad's Toad Brigade in the first 2 Mario Galaxy games. We have a yellow toad who's the sleepy one. The blue toad, he doesn't have his glasses, but that's the nerdy toad. There is the green toad, which I think usually has a pickaxe. And then the purple toad, who I believe is like the male toad. Male meaning M-A-I-L, not M-A-L-E. Important distinction, I guess. But you also have this old purple toad here, who is the Toadsworth replacement. Oh, I'm not actually that upset about it, but I kind of am. But we also have this toad here with his cute little Mario pajamas and like a little Mario plush, and I think it's really cute how maybe there's like a little bit of a time jump going on here. Maybe a couple months have gone by, maybe a year or so, maybe 2 years, but I don't know. Basically, the Mario Brothers have been around long enough to where their name and their fame has spread far and wide, and they have little merchandise in the Mushroom Kingdom, and I think that's really cute. And I think they are probably going to make kids pajamas that look somewhat like this, if Nintendo's smart, so that kids can own the same pajamas from the movie. That's not necessarily a prediction, that's just something I think would be cute. Hey Colorado boy, how's it going? The last toad that I think is really notable here is this toad, which is red and white instead of white and red, which is more reminiscent of like the early Super Show design for toads, which I think is interesting. But also, to pin the tail more on the donkey with this particular toad, is that he's the same Chef Toad who appears in the Super Nintendo World, the amusement park. So that's pretty cool. Nice. I'm glad your night's going all right. But yes, this seems to be what the Star Festival looks like in the Mushroom Kingdom. There's both comets whizzing by, and there are star bits, which I think is cool. I also like the design of these little boats floating on the water. For some reason, they remind me of Tangled, which is nice. I'm doing all right, Colorado. my injury's healing up nice, so I think I'm doing all right. Oh, you also had a wild day? That's unfortunate. Hopefully it's the good kind of wild and not the bad kind of wild. Yes, I agree. Healing is nice. Yep, so that's all with the thing tomorrow. It's happening tomorrow at 6 a.m. PT, which I think for me in Central Standard Time CST is like 7 or 8 a.m. I don't know. I can't tell time zones. That's for nerds. I'm not a nerd. I'm only obsessively talking about Mario movie stuff for several hours at a time. Anyway, let's go on to like what I would consider to be one of the most major big, I think it's a leak going on, but it's still under investigation. This leak, if you want to call it that, happened yesterday, and this is from this happened on Twitter. This is not the original person who posted this, but this is the this is what Yoshi supposedly looks like in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And we're gonna go to Twitter again. Take a look at this. I like this. So if you notice, this is the same, or it looks like the same render, or at least a very similar render to what appeared on the Old Spice thing, and I think that gives it a little extra credibility. That was for later. So that's kind of neat. It's like a little Yoshi egg cookie. They got a Mario Galaxy 1 looking render, or pose going on there. That's pretty neat. And if you notice here, there's something that looks like the Comet Observatory, and if we go to the next picture, we're gonna get a much better view of that. And I'm gonna open this in a separate tab so that we can take a good look at this. And now this does have a lot going on here. So first of all, the first thing I think you probably noticed if you're anything like me is that Mario and Yoshi are doing a fun little pose right here. It's very reminiscent of the Super Mario Galaxy 2 cover art. Mario does look a lot more excited in this, which is very nice. He looks more animated, and so does Yoshi. But I mean, you're riding a dinosaur through space. Why wouldn't that be exciting? You know? And I will say, this Comet Observatory, if this is real, I really like the way this Comet Observatory looks. I love the way the original looks. I have it as the wallpaper for my computer desktop right now, but that's meant to be a game hub, and this is just meant to be a cool spaceship for a movie. And this very much has like a almost like a Disney-esque design. Notice like the spires here. It reminds me a lot of like a Cinderella castle almost, but if it was like in space, and I think that's really, really, really cool. And it still has some design similarities, some major design similarities with the original. There's also this planet from the Gateway Galaxy in this, as well as this planet, which I believe, if we go by the stone spires here, right here, that is where you wake up on the first planet in Gateway Galaxy after you get knocked off Peach's castle in the game's opening. And if that's the case, I think Rosalina's weird tower thing where you meet her should be around here. But I like the introduction of like this sort of wisps of clouds that look like Neptune or like Saturn. I think that's a really cool touch. And also, Bowser Jr. is here. Now, Bowser Jr. brings in a lot too, because when introducing Bowser Jr., one big thing that was emphasized both in Mario Sunshine, the game where he first came from, and in New Super Mario Bros. In the instruction manual, was that Bowser Jr. believed at one point that Princess Peach was his mom. And that was like a big aspect of Super Mario Sunshine. And I think that if they want to bring in something a little bit more for the Mario Sunshine fans, it would be really nice to, and really interesting if Bowser Jr. at some point was tricked by Bowser into thinking that Princess Peach was his mom, and maybe that's why Bowser Jr. goes and kidnaps Princess Peach, since Bowser's captured and can't really act on his own at the moment. I think that would be super duper interesting. Also, there's a bunch of Bowser airships around this planet, and I'm not sure what this is. Maybe this little point in the middle could be Peach's castle, and maybe they're just raising up. Oh, what if Peach's castle isn't the only thing Bowser and his minions are lifting up in the air in this movie? A thought I just had. What if they lift up multiple other places as well, and that's what these little dots are? Is that they're different places in the world that Bowser is scooping up, and maybe one of them involves Daisy? Maybe some of it involves the Kongs? Maybe a little bit of Brooklyn too, but that would be a little bit more wacky, a little bit more out there, a little bit more Insano style. But I just had to throw it out there because, hey, I mean, I'm gonna predict, so I'm gonna go a little nuts. I'm sorry. All right, let me zoom back out to full size. And that's pretty much it. Oh, except for the fact that these images aren't the only thing that appeared in this leak. Another thing that appeared in this leak was this link. Now, this link is to what I think is a food marketplace, but as you can see, no. This is not my address. I have no idea why it has that, but, okay. But anyway, if you follow the link to the Pillsbury Super Mario Galaxy Sugar Dough Cookie thing, it's gonna tell you that it's not gonna let you do that. So, yeah. But don't think that the trail stops there, friends, because I anticipated this. That's not my address. It's not my zip code. I don't know whose zip code that is, but it's not mine. Poor soul. I'd hate to be the guy whose zip code that is, though. That sucks for them. But anyway, this is what the website looked like from my phone. So this is like sort of a place where you can see all like the nutrition facts and stuff and all the product information about this. So to me, this does scream that this is a real product, which leads me to believe that this is a real leak. That and the guy who posted it, Minions Fanboy on twitter.com, he, I think he posted the other day that he had to take down this post, his original post about this, due to DMCA. Which could be faked, it could be whatever. Let me try to see if I can find his Twitter page real quick, because I think he did post one new leak. Minions Fanboy. Twitter. Okay. Let me try to see if I can find the thing he sent. No, he sent some like weird audio. Do you think this was intentional? I'm not sure, actually. And that is curious to think about. What if it was intentional or not? I'm not gonna make any thoughts about this. Okay. Sorry, I saw something else he had on his thing that got taken down, but that was about the Minecraft movie, and I don't care about that. But it does seem as though this guy does go about the business of trying to leak movies. So that's very interesting. Or at least give out news about movies before it happens. I couldn't find the thing that I noticed before about a recording. Basically, it was a very, very quiet, distorted recording of what seemed like a couple seconds from the trailer for the Mario Galaxy movie. Not the one we've already seen, or the one that's been announced, but like a brand new one, basically. Basically, if you want to like get weirdly obscured, barely audible audio of what'll probably be the direct tomorrow, that was it. But it seemed like that got taken down. I wish I bookmarked that post, but unfortunately for everyone, I'm an idiot, so I didn't think that far ahead. But that is basically all the Mario Galaxy movie news so far. I'm really excited about this. Miyamoto seems to think that it's really fun, which means it's probably going to be extremely faithful to the source material for the most part. Or at least like the vibe of it is going to be very faithful to the source material, which is something I really loved about the first movie. It seems to be pulling from a lot of different eras of Mario, which is something I'm also very excited about. And I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of news. If anyone has any questions that they'd like to send in, I think now would be a good time, and we can potentially talk about predictions, baby. Oh, I'm so excited. But yeah, let me see here. Now, I'll let other people send in questions about things they want me to discuss before I get to my own predictions, because I think that'll just be more interesting. So let me open with some questions. Kind of weird how they completely skipped over Sunshine. I don't necessarily think so. Because I think Sunshine is one of those games that, like, yes, it was important, and it introduced some very important characters into Mario, namely Bowser Jr. But I really don't think that Sunshine's relevance in terms of like the Mario franchise and what they could do with it for a movie really goes beyond Bowser Jr. thinking he's Peach's son and then doing that, which is why I think they would kind of loop that into his inclusion in a Mario Galaxy movie. It's kind of be just like, here you go, Sunshine fans. Here you go. Like Mario being faked for a crime he didn't commit. Like that would be interesting for a movie, but like that kind of really limits the scope in terms of games that you can pull from for this. Whereas if you focus on Mario Galaxy, it gives you a lot of locations you can go to at once. And Super Mario World, it's a crime against the stars, a universal crime. Yes, literally a universal crime. Skipping over Super Mario World is a bit more interesting though. And actually, you know what? To heck with Topher's notes about what he wanted me to discuss. I'm gonna jump straight into one of the first things. Well, no. I'm going to hold off. Maybe. I don't know. Chat, would you rather talk about like what I would expect for like the voice cast for this movie? Like predictions about that? Or would you rather hear predictions about like, oh shoot, my camera's bugging again. Hold on. Would you rather hear predictions about what I feel about like the direction they're going to go for like the voice casting? Or would you rather hear my predictions for the overall direction of this movie, where it's going to go plot wise, all of that? Because those are two very different things. And I'm so excited about the plot of this movie, but I could also see why a lot of people would be more focused on like voice direction, characterization of certain things, potential locations. I don't know. I'm down for a voice cast discussion. Okay, so that's probably inevitably going to be a part of what Topher's thing is going to be about. So let me open up his do not open until Christmas paper that he sent me. Questions for Jack. How do you think they'll handle Yoshi's voice? Okay, so me and Topher talked about this some in the car last night. So basically his thing was, do you think that they're going to do celebrity voice casting for Yoshi and he's going to speak in full sentences like, hello, Mario. How are you today? My name is Yoshi. This is going really well. Or do you think that they're going to have like a celebrity voice cast to do like some voice lines, but like also mix in some Yoshi noises? Or do you think that Yoshi is just going to be basically pantomiming everything and also using like game sounds? And I think he needs to make the quirky face from the Mario show. Yeah. So that's actually a really good point. And I was going to bring this up, is for Yoshi specifically, it's very interesting because Yoshi as a character is wildly inconsistent with how they interpret how, like, the vocabulary of Yoshi. Whether Yoshi knows English or not is completely dependent on what game you play. Now, I think more often than not, Yoshi has been known to say full sentences and to be understanding of like a human intelligible language like English. So in Super Mario World, right, you go to Yoshi's house and you find a letter on his door saying like, hey, I'm off to rescue my friends. They're kidnapped by Bowser. Yoshi. And Yoshi actually talks to you when you first rescue me from an egg, like, hooray, thanks for rescuing me, you can hop on my back and let's go. That's Yoshi's first appearance, and he speaks in full English. So you might just think, oh, case closed, that's it. No, because other interpretations of Yoshi, Yoshi speaks like the word Yoshi, but like basically in parentheses in text, it gives you a translation of what that is. So like this is usually in like spin-off games like Mario Super Sluggers for the Wii, is that Yoshi, this is like next level neurodivergent knowledge drops, but in Mario Super Sluggers for the Wii, in the story mode for that, Yoshi speaks exclusively in the word Yoshi, and then it immediately like translates in parenthetical text like the English of what Yoshi is trying to say. There are some games like Super Mario RPG where most Yoshis do speak their own Yoshi language that Mario cannot comprehend, but the main green Yoshi whose back you ride on acts as a sort of translator to Mario for the other Yoshis, so you can understand Yoshis as long as you're hopping on the back of the green Yoshi. So in that way, Yoshi is like the main green Yoshi is the only translator between Yoshi-ese and English, if that makes sense. And in some cases, there's one like the Super Mario World cartoon, which Zynalis reminded us of, in which Yoshi speaks like a weird, childish, broken English, which I don't necessarily think is bad. And then there's just the mute Yoshi, who appears in some other spin-off material, who can't talk at all, and just basically mimes things out. Basically, the personification of Yoshi varies wildly. And so what they decide to do with it, I think there's very little directions they could go with it in this Yoshi. There's very little directions they could go with Yoshi in this movie that I feel like are just wrong, if that makes sense. However, there are some things that I would probably expect more than others. I probably do expect him to have some celebrity voice casting. Probably insert Tom Holland as Yoshi meme, insert Ryan Reynolds as Yoshi meme. I'm pretty sure Colorado Boy mentioned Ryan Reynolds as Yoshi, and I think that idea is so hilarious to me because Yoshi is older than Mario. Like, that is just true. Yoshi is a lot older than Mario, and so to have Yoshi speak in like a very much like adult voice, like, "Hello, Mario. I think we should stop Bowser. I sure am hungry to eat some Goombas today, wouldn't you say?" I think him talking like that and maybe making like one or two borderline risque jokes would be really funny from Yoshi of all characters. And it's kind of reminded me of Detective Pikachu a little bit. Like, nobody would think that you would have Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would do something like that. But I think and if they go that direction, I would actually really like that. But like, I think if they do the comedic value right, basically with any of these options, if you play them right, they would work well. But I think what I would do if I was in charge, right? What I would like to see is a version of Yoshi who does speak English. Sorry, before I get to that, I'll notice one thing about the voice direction for the Mario movie, the original one so far, is that for some characters, well, a lot of the main characters, they had celebrity voice actors, and I didn't mind that, actually. I was scared about Chris Pratt as Mario, as I feel like most other fans were, but he ultimately ended up being really okay, especially with the direction the movie was going, where Mario and Luigi from Brooklyn, absolutely they should talk like Americans. It would make sense for them to talk like Americans do, like New Yorkers, and so therefore it makes sense to have a Chris Pratt as Mario. However, some voice directions, particularly for Jack Black's Bowser, they would have Jack Black do like a lot of the voicing for Bowser, but then also they would have a lot of Bowser's like and like a would be I forget who exactly who's the name of the voice actor for Bowser. Bowser voice actor, I think his name is Kenny James, if I'm correct about that. Yep. Kenneth Windell Kenny James. He's been doing the role since 2005. Good grief. What a legend. Honestly, that guy just is Bowser in my mind. But anyway, Illumination seemed to think so too, because a lot of Bowser's like roars and stuff like that were actually Kenny James's voice lines. Just straight up. Like from Mario 3D World or Super Mario Galaxy or something like that. So they could do the same with Yoshi, and during the end credit scene of the Mario movie, it does actually use Yoshi's voice line of him saying Yoshi in the end credit scene. So I think there will be some voice line clips of either of the voice actor doing an impression of Yoshi, like a good impression of Yoshi, or just straight up like sounds like voice lines from Yoshi as from the Mario games themselves. That, or they'll just say screw continuity and have Ryan Reynolds fully voice Yoshi with just the Ryan Reynolds voice. But I actually think that what I would prefer is have maybe, well, what I would prefer is to have somebody, either Totaka, the official game Yoshi voice actor, or somebody doing a very good impression of Totaka, since he is Japanese, do like an English dub basically of what Yoshi should say throughout the movie. and he'll sound like Yoshi. So, like, his overall voice direction is very faithful to what Yoshi sounds like in the games. And then they mix in some Yoshi, or like some other voice lines from the game. I think that would be really cool. Do I think that's actually gonna happen? Maybe. I think the other extreme is like they have the celebrity voice do the voice of Yoshi and then insert the game sound effects on occasion, like with Jack Black's Bowser. I just think that would be really cool. I hope they do that. I hope that whatever they do, it works well, and I'm pretty confident that it will. So that's where I'm going with that. Number 2, how do you think they'll handle Rosalina's voice? Specifically, who do you think they'll pick? Okay, so here's the part of the discussion where I say that I am not very familiar with Hollywood actors and actresses. I'm just not. That's just not my wheelhouse. That's not my knowledge base. Is like this voice, this actor or actress who was in this thing and did this many roles, and this is their name. Like, I just think characters, what have they done before? That, and I just don't watch a lot of movies or TV, if I'm gonna be completely honest. So, like, some names who I've been hearing get thrown around is one name I've been hearing thrown around that I'm not super jazzed about is Awkwafina. Not because I'm super familiar with her work, but because other people are. Like my wife, and she's just like, she just talks whenever she does like an acting role. She just doesn't really put her heart into it. Like the way she described it just sounds awful. I would not be a big fan if they did that. It's still salvageable, but I don't think I would like that too much. Another thing I've seen, I'm gonna pull up my own phone for this because I liked a post on Twitter that had to do with like a potential voice acting thing for Rosalina that I think actually really worked well. Hold on. Why did I like so many things recently? I'm not a... Okay. Okay. So another person who'd been brought up recently was Elizabeth Olsen, which is interesting. I'm gonna try to pull this up from Discord real quick. Like basically DM myself the link so that I can show it to you guys. But he did this guy on Twitter did an animation of this person's voice over Rosalina, and I thought it really worked well. I forget what exactly is said here, so it might not be family friendly, but we'll see. So basically,
things like going to it's Pike something.
Elizabeth Olsen is Rosalina, and I think this lady's voice does work pretty well, especially with the animation that they do. It's really cute. So this is Mild Entropy on Twitter.
That's incredible.
You were there.
I was there. I was doing tourist things like going to it's Pike something.
Pike Place Market.
Pike Place Market.
Right.
And I was trying to find lunch, and there's this like little French bistro I wanted to try out, and it was really small and narrow. And I was looking at the menu on the glass, and you were right there.
Oh.
And I have really bad social anxiety, like here and outside of work. And then seeing work people in like the red light. And I felt really weird sitting through a meal not knowing if I should say hi to you or not. And so I just went to a different restaurant.
I think the lunch star there is really cute. That's really nice. What does Elizabeth Olsen do? I'm scared to look up her name. I'm scared of what images might pop up, frankly, so I'm just gonna... I've made the mistake of looking on Google Images for something before. Okay, so she is the Scarlet Witch person. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I just didn't want to say that in front of everybody and get totally humiliated online. My worst fear ever. Elizabeth Olsen is a big name, so that would get fans riled up. I think so, but I think that would be like sort of like a riled up in a good way. I think that would be pretty fun, especially like I think this animation is what convinced me. Like I think the best way you can make an argument that a person's voice would work well with a character is to do like a short animation sort of like this. That's what people did with the Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, with the Charlie Day as Luigi, with the person who plays Princess Peach, Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach. That's what they did with a lot of those people, with Jack Black as Bowser. And it worked really well, and it got fans really excited about picks that people were just like, what the heck is this? Because it made those things seem less random. Like, it got people imagining what it would be like if that person voiced that character. And I think that's the best thing about this, is that it makes me think this person might actually do a great job. With that being said, I don't necessarily know, and I don't know enough about celebrities to know if that person gets cast or not. I do think it's really funny because people were talking about Awkwafina playing a character in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I think it's really funny that they chose, what's her name? Who's playing Toy Chica in the new FNAF movie. Oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. She was like in a lot of like the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Anyway, that chick, they got her doing a lot of the voices for that. They got her doing the Toy Chica, and I think that's hilarious. So I think that whoever they get for this, hopefully it's somebody who, like, it'll be funny, if not like, oh, this is just that person talking. Okay, you know. Yes, you can ask your question now, Mallard. Fire away. One last thing I will say about voice acting in particular, at least right now, is that I think that I would not be surprised if there is at least one. Sorry, let me play the music. If there's at least one Disney Channel or former Disney Channel actor or actress in this movie, I think it's highly surprising they haven't done somebody who was at some point a famous celebrity who was on like a kids show or something like that. But I think that, well, I guess Jack Black has appeared in several children's media, but you know what I'm saying, like somebody like I'm thinking like big names from when I was a kid, so like Selena Gomez or Miley Cyrus, like somebody who was like used to work with Disney Channel. Oh, what's the name? There's like two big pop stars now, both like women, who like used to be on Disney Channel too. Oh gosh, but like they're big like pop star celebrities now. Sabrina Carpenter would be somebody who I think it would be really funny if they had her play Rosalina. Honestly, having like a singer celebrity would be really good for Pauline, although technically she's already had voice lines in the Mario movie. They can kind of retcon that, sort of get that out of there. And then if Pauline does some singing again, we could just have that person do some singing. I think that would be really interesting. I think that would be really fun. Would I play Heck Divers 2 or Diablo 4 on stream or at all? I've been convinced by... Okay, so that's not quite like the Q&A I was imagining doing for this. I wanted to keep it mainly related to Mario movie stuff right now, Mallard, but I will quickly say, I do think I will play Heck Divers at some point. I think that would be really fun. I have not really seen any footage of Diablo 4. I don't really think that's like my vibe. The main reason why I would play Heck Divers on stream is because that's what my friends play. So once I get my PC upgrades in, I could be convinced. I mean, I don't have it, and it's a little expensive for something I would maybe only do a couple times, but it sounds really interesting to me. So I'd be interested in doing it. A little bit, we'll see. But anyway, back to Rosalina. How do I imagine her voice being? Like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be some celebrity. I do really like the voices that Rosalina's had so far in her games, like, but I like, unlike specifically with Rosalina's characterization, I don't know if this will be like a future question in the thing. I really like the aura they give Rosalina in the original Super Mario Galaxy. I think that's a part of what makes her very unique as a Mario character. And I've seen a lot of people like be very negative towards how Nintendo is treating Rosalina now, that she's not still like sort of like depressed or like despondent and mysterious. But I think that like she's just happy like everyone else. And I just think that that's just that. Like, she's found healing through Mario and through hanging out with the rest of them. And I think that's okay for her to be happy like everyone else. I don't necessarily think that's like erasure of her character. That being said, I do want Rosalina herself to have like a mysterious aura in the movie when they introduce her. And then maybe as they have her, yeah, she can't be depressed forever. Exactly. Like, exactly. But I can see why some people would think that if they jump straight from Galaxy 1 to like Mario Party or something, they'll see like a big weird divide. But like, I would like it if they gave Rosalina a little bit of aura when introducing her in the Mario Galaxy movie, and then they kind of delve into her backstory, and that kind of gets me on like more again what my personal predictions are for this movie. But yeah, we'll save that for later too. If Rosalina is just the kind of person who just kind of jump starts the mission, just being like, hey, I'm a lady from space, I need you to help me on my quest to get some power stars or whatever, stop Bowser, that's fine with me too. I just really think they gotta go into her backstory at some point. They gotta do some sort of explanation of who she is. Please. Please. You're on a gold mine, Nintendo. You gotta do it. So, third question from Seasaber or Topher. If Bowser Jr. is in the movie, who would you want to voice him? So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with voice actors, particularly of child characters in movies. Now, I know for the Lumas that they do have child voice actors for them, but I think the Lumas are a very special case. I think that if they have Bowser Jr. in the movie, since he is a prominent enough role, and since it's not uncommon for child cartoon characters to be voiced by adults, I think Bowser Jr. will be voiced by some sort of like professional voice actor who's an adult. That, or he's just another like dumb celebrity pick or whatever. Sure, Tom Holland is Bowser Jr. Oh gosh, can you imagine a Jack Black Tom Holland duo? You know what? What if they just got the Rizzler to play Bowser Jr.? That'd be so freaking stupid. A part of me really likes how dumb that is. I don't. That's not actually a prediction. But wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny? Imagine if it's Ben Schwartz. Oh no. You know what? I don't know though. I think it would be really funny if it's somebody who's played a Sonic. Like, somebody who's like played as Sonic in some other thing. If they got him to play like an enemy character in a Mario movie, I think that would be like cosmic irony, which is fitting for a cosmic Mario movie. Sonic Olympics canonized. Yes. I don't know. Like, that might be where the Disney Channel voice actors come into play, you know? Like somebody who's worked with Disney or something like that before. Maybe, yeah, who knows? I don't know about Bowser Jr. Yeah. Another thing is that they could have... So that kind of leads me on a similar topic of like, what if the other Koopalings are in this movie? I think it would make sense to have somebody who can just generally play like child voice acting, although who's not like an actual child, if that makes sense. But like a voice actor who can play like a variety of different child characters. I think that would make sense. Like how they got the guy who plays the majority of the Looney Tunes characters at this point. I forget what his name is, but they have him playing various voice roles in the first Mario movie. I would not be surprised if they had somebody doing a similar role like that, but they just play all of the Koopalings, like collectively, like this chick or whoever who just specializes in playing child cartoon characters, plays just all the Koopalings, including Wendy. That'd be really interesting. That'd be really funny. And that's exactly how I think they do it in previous Mario cartoons. So I think that would just work pretty well. It is a tricky one. I agree. Let's move on to the next. That, or it's again like a Disney Channel or a Disney actor or actress. That'd be interesting. That'd be cool. Or just like popular kids actor. I don't know. If the movie tries to juggle the introduction of Yoshi, Bowser Jr., and Rosalina all at once, do you have any concerns about them pulling it off? Not really. No. I think that the introduction of Yoshi is really the most out of place. And I guess I could touch on why Rosalina and Bowser Jr. aren't particular problems to me. Because, like, number one, I think Mario Galaxy was probably many fans' first introduction to Bowser Jr., if not through Mario Kart or something like that. Also, I think that, and I think Bowser Jr. is just very self-explanatory. Son of Bowser is kind of in the name. But Bowser Jr.'s backstory itself is really interesting, especially when you combine that with Rosalina's backstory, because, not to get game theory on ya, but with the Rosalina's storybook, I do think that Rosalina is the daughter of Princess Peach. I do genuinely think that. I'm sorry if you're one of those people who thinks that that's not true, but like, come on. So I think it would be interesting to have two people who are very different from each other, both claim to be Princess Peach's child in the same film, especially because the first Mario movie also teased at a backstory for Princess Peach. Freaky Star Wars romance? Kinda, but not really. And I can explain why I think so in a bit. For those of you who maybe haven't played through Super Mario Galaxy or whatever, sorry, that's spoilers, but that is a huge aspect of why Mario Galaxy is important to a lot of people, including myself. So yeah, because not only does this character just look like Princess Peach, but when Rosalina describes the place in which she used to grow up, it looks a lot like Peach's castle. See that right there? That looks like Peach's castle. That just looks like the trees from the Mushroom Kingdom. You can see what I mean. Okay. Very cool. So, I think it would be super interesting to have two people give both Bowser Jr. and Rosalina claim to be children of Princess Peach. I think that would be really crazy to have in the same movie, and I think it would work really well with what Illumination's trying to do and trying to give Peach more lore and like trying to build up sort of more mystique about what's really going on here. Like and also just Bowser Jr. being like claiming to be Peach's offspring as well is just, I mean, it's super weird, but like I can see how you can play that for jokes too. With Yoshi, I feel like Yoshi is one of those characters who doesn't really need an explanation. Yoshi is usually a character who fights against Baby Bowser, who looks identical to Bowser Jr. anyway. And so usually that has to do with Bowser Jr. wanting to take over Yoshi's domain, wherever Yoshi lives. Or it involves like Bowser or Baby Bowser or somebody who looks like Bowser Jr. kidnapping the Yoshis or harming them in some way. So Yoshi wanting to stop a Bowser Jr. looking character also isn't that hard to imagine for me. So would I think the plot's focus would be spread too thin? Do you think it would be too much for Illumination to handle? Now, I know that a lot of people think that, or it's a lot of other people's opinions, that the first Mario movie was very poorly paced. And I think it definitely could have been paced better, but I think as a children's movie, and just as an origin story for the Mario Brothers, it's honestly all right. Like, it frankly paces things like the Mario Brothers Brooklyn introduction better than the Super Show does, which isn't saying much, but I take what I can get. And honestly, them trying to fit in the Mario Brothers plumbing, Donkey Kong stuff, them exploring the Mushroom Kingdom, Princess Peach and Toad, Bowser and fighting Bowser, and Mario Kart, and all of that, and Wrecking Crew, all into one movie, that is also extremely ambitious. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, was the concept art for the first movie. I gotta see if I can look up like the concept art for this. I'm sorry. Mario movie concept art. There is a wealth of concept art for the Mario movie, and a lot of it is super duper interesting. Let me see here. Oh my gosh, I saw a... Dang it. I saw a thing that is just a bunch of concept art. Oh man. Okay, so there's a lot. Oh man. There's so much. Okay, this seems like a good page to show. So, this is from Eurogamer about Mario movie concept art. They wanted to do so much more with the Mario movie than what they ended up doing. It's not even funny. I'm very glad they didn't go the direction of Princess Peach in high school rejecting Bowser, because I think that makes Peach look like too much of the bad guy when she really shouldn't be at all. Like, I just hate this as a concept, respectfully. I'm very glad they didn't do it, but you can see that they have Daisy here, they have Bowser here, they have Toadette, and they were going to have like a much more like a very different direction for the movie. But this is another huge thing of the types of characters they wanted to bring in for the first movie. The first movie of all the stuff they wanted to do. So if you look at this picture, oh my gosh, open this new tab. We're big zooming in on this. Look at this. First of all, might I just say, this is a freaking masterpiece. I'm sorry. As a Mario fan, this is the stuff that I live for, baby. Sorry. So, real quick, characters you can see here, Mario, duh, obviously, but you can see Bowser swinging a chain chomp around like he does in Super Mario RPG. Isn't that cool? But also, you have Luigi tied to an airship mast from King Boo and Kamek and Birdo riding an Angry Wiggler, the green angry Wiggler from Mario Sunshine. You have Daisy riding a normal Wiggler, charging straight at Birdo. You have Princess Peach wielding Parry from Super Princess Peach. You have Donkey Kong yeeting a giant barrel. You have Toadsworth riding another Yoshi. You have the Yeti people from Super Mario Odyssey. You have Toadette. You have the penguins from Mario 64. You have Charge and Chuck, Piranha Plant from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Winged Yoshi, Toad looking like he does in the Super Show appearance, and Cranky Kong over here. And if I didn't mention Toadsworth already, there he is right over there. There is so much that they wanted to cram into one movie. It's insane. And so that being said, oh, and a plunger, which definitely emphasizes like Mario and Luigi's origin as plumbers. I see this now as not necessarily where things are going to get at by the end of this movie, but where they want the series to go. And that's why I predict they're going to make a third movie. That's what I'm predicting, because I think that having a freaking smorgasbord like this is, frankly, it's a dream come true. If they were to do all that, I wouldn't care if they don't do a crossover with Zelda, which is also something they could do within the universe of Mario. They could very well have a crossover with Zelda. I would be completely happy if they did not do that, if they gave us something like this and it actually like delivered on the hype of what this would be for somebody like me. I would be completely fine with that. They also have alternate scenes of what it would look like of Mario infiltrating the castle, Bowser stealing the star, Mario and Luigi in New York City. Originally calling it Luigi Bros was interesting, and Luigi being like more confident and Mario is more worried at first. I think that's an interesting thing that leads to like a sort of role reversal once they get into the Mushroom Kingdom. And I like this little thing with their license plate right there. I think that's pretty cute. The king penguin looking like a real chonker over the lava pit. I like that. I love the skull platforms from Super Mario World, as well as the P-switch door right on the right. And the Tiki Shy Guys from Yoshi's Island. All of that is so cool and so good. Oh, I love it. I love looking at the concept art for this movie. It's so cool. It's so cool. And they could do so much. They could do so much with this movie. And I think that's the point. It's not that the point in the question of, do you think this is too much for them to chew? I don't necessarily think it's more than what they did with the first movie, if they incorporated Sarasa Land and everything like that into there. I don't think that's more than what they did with the first movie. In terms of like just different plot beats jumping around like that, I think it would be far easier if they had Mario, Rosalina, and Yoshi A plot, Luigi, Daisy, and whoever else B plot, and they eventually come together to stop Bowser, Bowser Jr., whoever. Like, that to me seems way easier on its own. That on its own seems way easier than this. Now, once they throw in, if they decide to throw in other characters, you can't see the paper, but they could very well do that. And I think that would probably be a different question, but I think tying in Bowser Jr., Yoshi, Rosalina, not that big a deal, frankly, especially in comparison to the fact that they did an entire segment on the Super Show. Hello? Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. Now, whether people would have similar criticisms about pacing or whatever, like, I don't know. I personally didn't mind the pacing of the original movie, but that's me as a Mario fan wanting to see all of that stuff anyway. So, like, I want to see it all. They gave it all, and so I like it. And so I'll take what I can get. So my complaint about pace, I can see other people having similar complaints about pacing if they did all that. I certainly wouldn't. So, and I think it would give more for kids to like ooh and ah at, and like for them to want to sell as merchandise, frankly. Easy as can be. Now, the next question is, do you think we'll get more characters like Wario, Daisy, etc. in this movie? Why or why not? Wario? Ooh. Wario is a tricky one because I think Wario is a big enough name. Especially if they put in freaking Spike and Cranky Kong. I see a little reason why Wario shouldn't be in the movie. However, I think that Wario should have a big enough presence to where like his addition actually means something for the plot. Now, whether that means Wario is the one who's harassing Daisy in Sarasa Land, I don't know. Another character who could easily do that is Tatonga. And I think, frankly, having Tatonga versus Luigi would make more sense than having Wario versus Luigi. I think what people would want to see is a Wario versus Mario, you know? But I think if Bowser Jr. potentially enlisting Wario to help beat Mario, especially if it's like an evil Mario trying to ruin Mario's name, would be really funny, and also a slightly nuanced throwback to Mario Sunshine's plot of Bowser Jr. sort of wanting to have a rival for Mario that sort of sullies his good name. I kind of like that, and I think that leans into Wario's trickster vibes. Were there any rumors of Wario being in the movie? There's a lot of talk about it, just generally among fans. Back when this was just the Mario movie 2, it was inescapable, dude. The talk about how, what's his name should play Wario. Oh, I forget. He's like the guy who's in, It's Always Sunny. I think he's in that. Gosh, who's the guy they people always wanted to cast as, like, fan cast as Wario? Danny DeVito. That's who it is. Danny DeVito. I feel like Danny DeVito himself at one point reportedly said he would like to play as Wario in a Mario movie sequel, which I mean, come on. It'd just be too perfect. But at the same time, like, do I think it'll happen? And the answer to that is, at this point, I don't know. It could go either way. I think it would be really, really, really fun. But do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. It could go either way for me, chat, and I think either way I would be perfectly fine. I would really want both Wario and Waluigi to be introduced at some point, and I think that it would make sense to introduce Wario at a time where they're also covering, like, somewhat the events of Mario Land 1 with Princess Daisy. Why not throw in Mario Land 2, you know, with Wario? Because, like, that's really the part people want to see, is Wario. Like, that's the part of Mario Land 2 people want to see, is Wario versus Mario. So, like, you can have that. I don't know. There's a lot. There's so many moving pieces, and it's hard to tell because the first movie was just so much more for the fans than anything I would have expected, frankly. It makes me really happy. Oh gosh, I forgot to turn on the backlight. I probably looked like a weird monster. Oh, now I look... Okay, whatever. It's backlight time. I look like a... a very well highlighted freak. Do I think the movie will live up to the experience you had watching the first? I think... with the direction the first movie went, right? I think it would be very difficult for it not to do that. Now, let me tell you what I mean. The Mario movie, the first one, is probably, like, it's a movie made for somebody with my interests, right? Been a fan of this series since I was a kid. Been ingesting a whole truckloads of a bunch of different Mario media. This catered to me, and to me specifically. And that was beautiful. I did not love every aspect of it, but I think the hits that it hit were far, far, far more impactful to me than the things I thought it slipped up on. And I think that the Super Mario Galaxy movie has so... like, you have so much more potential to make me personally very excited as a fan, because I think Mario Galaxy is not like what I think is the best Mario game per se, or like my favorite Mario game to play, but I think it is just my favorite Mario game in terms of like my experiences with it, and like it is probably my favorite video game, my favorite single player video game ever made. If you combine Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 as like a single package, which I do in my head. I combine them as one complete experience, because that's how I experienced them as a kid. I would combine Mario Galaxy 2, 1 and 2 to be my favorite game of all time. Or my favorite gaming experience of all time. And so your highs with me could be so much higher than the first movie was, because with the first movie I was just impressed that they did so much right. And I think they already have such a good direction going into this that I think it would be hard for it to at least not be as good as the first one. Maybe not as like, ooh, we're actually doing this kind of excitement, especially if they don't touch on Rosalina lore with the storybook. That would honestly... Okay, if the rest of the movie is really good, but they don't touch on like the huge Rosalina lore that I want them to touch on with this movie, I would consider that a massive missed experience, like a massive gold mine that was squandered with this. But I would still be all right. Like I would, much like how the Driving Me Bananas song in the first movie was replaced by Take On Me in like the actual theatrical release, and I like will forever wring my hands at that because that song was just incredible. Like, man, I think if they take fan criticism into account with this movie, which, remember, when they made the first movie, all they had to go off of was don't let it be like the live action one. I think now that they actually have a first animated movie that they can take criticism from, get feedback on, improve upon, I think there's a real chance that it could outdo the impressions that the first movie had on me. I do think that Rosalina's story is far and away the most important subject to the Galaxy games. Absolutely. And I think that's all the questions I had from Topher, but now let's get into my predictions. Did we already listen to the song? I think we did. Oh no, let's see here. All right. Actually, no. Let's... Is there some Mario Galaxy music we can have going on? Okay. No. Okay, this is fine. So, let's talk about this, because here's where we get into my own stuff, my own theories, my own speculations, my own predictions. Right? First and foremost, my first prediction for this Mario Galaxy movie is I think this movie is going to be great. I don't think they'll butcher Rosalina's aura. I hope they don't. I think they're already priming the kiddos with the source material of the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 re-release on Nintendo Switch and Switch 2. Play those games if you haven't, by the way. They're great. I highly recommend them, and the Switch ports are very, very good. The newest Mario platformer at this point on Nintendo consoles is that Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 port, if you want to consider ports part of the equation, which for this discussion I will. The children are going to be fed Peak. They are primed with Peak. Nintendo has made sure that going into the movie, all the children, all the Switch players are going to have Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 both actively on their mind with this new movie. That being said, we might see some elements from Mario Galaxy 2 beyond just Yoshi. We might see Cloud Mario and B Mario. We might see Rock Mario. Who knows? That would be cool. But the only real new selling point for these games, besides for just Mario Galaxy 2 being replayable, again at long hecking last, is the main selling point is the extra storybook stuff. They not only know that people like Mario Galaxy, but they know what people liked about it. And I don't think like a lot of people who weren't like super in depth about Mario during like the early 2010s really get how big of a deal that is, because Mario Galaxy's story was like what fans were missing in terms of like Mario's story and stuff like that, especially with like Paper Mario stuff happening around then. I don't want to get into it, but it just felt like Nintendo was putting less of an emphasis on story. And so Nintendo putting an emphasis on Mario Galaxy's storybook again is so huge. It's so huge because it means that they know that Rosalina's storybook really matters, and what it provides is extremely significant to fans of Mario and fans of those games to begin with. And the fact that they want new child Mario fans to know this storybook material by the time they see the movie really matters. The game releases before holidays, and so the movie will be released like well into the new year, which is when that movie is going to be released. This also means that Nintendo's interested in making new Mario lore about the Lumas and stuff. But we'll touch on that later. But for those of you who don't know, why is Super Mario Galaxy important? Why would they title it Super Mario Galaxy movie and not Super Mario Movie 2? The stakes of Mario Galaxy are some of the highest they've ever been in the franchise, and at least in terms of the mainline games. I can only think of a couple big exceptions, one particular big one, but we'll get to that. Rosalina is introduced in Super Mario Galaxy, which is a fan favorite character, by the way, in case you didn't know. She's a mysterious space lady with a mysterious origin. In her storybook, it describes her journey of who she is and how she became the mother of Lumas. Her backstory illustrations are extremely interesting, as I'll get into here. Her homeland looks like the Mushroom Kingdom, with a castle that looks just like Peach's. And her mom looks extremely similar to Princess Peach. I mean, that looks pretty similar to Princess Peach to me. But the last interesting thing is Rosalina's mom is dead. Rosalina's mother is dead. There's no other way to say it. Rosalina says in her storybook that her mom is sleeping underneath the tree and the hill, and that means, in case you don't know, Rosalina's mom, she's dead. So how could Rosalina's mom be both Princess Peach, somebody who's alive and very young, around the same age Rosalina is when she appears in the game, and her mom is dead? Like, as in, no longer living. The fan theory, for many people, including myself, is that Peach is Rosalina's mom, and that this would make Rosalina a time traveler. Not just a space traveler, but a time traveler too, which kind of like interlinks like space time, that sort of thing. So when you consider the idea of space time and other outrageous things that Rosalina can do, like resetting the universe, which is what she does at the end of Mario Galaxy, that suddenly doesn't seem as impossible an idea anymore. I also think that Mario's the dad. Fight me, Matt Pat. This is just Atkins Razor. I mean, we can also have a civil discussion about it. I would actually prefer that. I mean, we're both adults. We can do this, but I mean, like, come on. Like, Luigi's not the dad. You're dumb. Or that opinion is dumb. Respectfully. That might have gaslit children. It won't gaslight me. Anyway, the emphasis on the Galaxy movie, the emphasis on Super Mario Galaxy for this story would bring in Rosalina's backstory, which would be huge for introducing Rosalina. It would make sense for a movie that introduces Rosalina to talk about her backstory, where she comes from, her origin, yada yada. It would bring in new lore about Princess Peach. Finally, just come on out and say it, Nintendo. Just say Peach is Rosalina's mom. It would also bring in time travel, which is a very big mechanic for Mario. Like, this isn't just something that would happen in Mario Galaxy if this is just a Mario Galaxy thing. It's not. Time travel appears, I wouldn't say often in Mario, but more often than some people would think. So bringing that in would be huge. It brings in space, and the themes of outer space is also something that is extremely common in Mario. And it would already bring in significantly higher stakes than what the first movie had. And already some of the highest stakes in the franchise. Which brings me to my next big point, which is, why jump to Mario Galaxy now? Why not make it the end of the trilogy? Because in my mind, my original big brain prediction for the Mario movie series or franchise is that it would be Super Mario Brothers would be the first movie, Super Mario World movie, which would cover Mario World, introduce the Koopalings, and also cover the land titles, so Mario Land 1 and 2. So Wario, Daisy, all that. And then Mario Galaxy would bring in Rosalina and space and all that. And so basically the stakes would increase in height. First you have the Mario Brothers, then the Mario World, then the Mario Galaxy. You see what I'm talking about? Is you sort of build the up and out. You know, like, that makes sense. That made sense to me at the time. So why jump to Mario Galaxy now? Why jump to that game particularly? Why not make it the end of the trilogy if that would be some of the highest stakes that the series has had so far? And my proposed answer is that Nintendo, for the 40th anniversary, wants to do something more with this movie series than what we initially thought. I initially thought that they'd tackle SMW and the Land games for the second movie, save the Galaxy games for the third movie, yada yada. But this jump to include and focus on Mario Galaxy leads me to a far different conclusion. The reason why they're jumping to Galaxy is so that they can focus on introducing brand new lore. That's my prediction for this movie. They're introducing something completely new. They've done absolutely everything they could in the first movie to establish as much of Mario's side series as humanly possible. They've brought up Luigi exploring spooky places. They brought up Yoshi's having their own little location. They brought up Donkey Kong having his own location. They've brought in Princess Peach and the Toads being independent to some extent. They've done all that, and they've hinted at like other galaxies and things like that. They've brought in Wrecking Crew. They've brought in, New Donk City or New York City. So like the Mario Brothers plumbing. They have done all of that. Almost every Mario side series in one single movie. They've done all of it. They've done all the pre-established backstory as much as humanly possible, to the point where many people thought it would have been better if they had just stretched it out. But I have the angle that they did as much as they could. They did all of that so that they can make room for everything new that they want to do for this movie. I wonder if they're planning on making the Mario movie a cinematic universe like the Sonic movies. I don't quite know what you mean by a cinematic universe, because in my mind, what more comes to my mind is like the MCU and the more just sort of crossover vibes. I think with the ties the Mario series has to Zelda and the ties that Nintendo series has to each other, I think a MCU style crossover cinematic universe is very possible. And I think it would not necessarily break game canon for them to do that. But I think that if you're talking about a cinematic universe of like all the Mario stuff in terms of like the side series and all of that, I definitely think that's what they're doing. 100%. Like some sort of self-contained Mario world that contains everything Mario. I think that's absolutely what they're doing with this movie series. But yeah, I think they've done all of like the pre-establishing backstory for the Mario Brothers and establishing the roots for all the side series in the first movie specifically, so that they can make way for all of the new stuff and like make a Mario universe. The first movie also dropped a little bit of a little story crumb, a little crumbly, if you will, about Peach's backstory and where does Princess Peach come from. Now it showed her coming out of the warp pipe in the first movie. Let me see if I can get an image for that. No, I can't. I'm shocked that SMG4 is in the Mario wiki. And also characters from what's it, that the fizzy pop animations. What the heck, dude? What the heck is this wiki? But anyway, back to serious conversation. Princess Peach came out of the warp pipe just like the Mario Brothers did when they came from their world, and it was kind of hinted at that maybe Princess Peach was from the Mario Brothers world too, something like that. Who knows? You know, humans don't just arrive, humans don't just spawn in the Mushroom Kingdom, they arrive, which is very interesting to think about. But it's something that we've never gotten before, and something that I think we could see way more of in future films. So I think they want to get all of the expected more mainline plot points of like the lore out of the way, so that a second and third movie, particularly a third movie, could be this more exciting, surprising finale that fans could really get excited about and sink their teeth into something new and something fresh and completely exciting. So we've talked about my thoughts about what the second movie could be. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of my most bonkers, off-the-wall, harebrained, crackpot prediction / pipe dream. What I think a third Mario movie would be like. And you might think it's a little early for me to do this, but second movies usually do give teasers into what a third movie in a trilogy would be like. And I just think that having a third movie would just work really well. And I think the money that the first movie brought in definitely brought funds for a third movie. So I don't think it's insane when talking about the second movie to make a prediction about what a third movie would look like. Here's my prediction for the third Mario movie. The third Mario movie, I predict that the third Mario movie will be about partners in time. I think it will be about Mario and Luigi partners in time. Now don't click off just because I said that, lol bro. Just hear me out. I expect the second movie will feature plot points for Mario World, Mario Land, Daisy and maybe Wario, and Super Mario Galaxy. Duh. But that would be some of the only real mainline source games and significant spin-offs with plot points to pull from would be Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, and Yoshi's Island. That's really it. Like, now so why am I thinking partners in time then? Why would I do that? I guess also Mario Odyssey, but really we have Pauline as the mayor of New York City. So yeah. And like a Bowser Peach wedding plot. That's just Mario Odyssey right there. So why partners in time for a third movie? A Partners in Time story for a third movie would be really great because I think the introduction of the Shroobs would greatly enhance the stakes of the third film in a trilogy, especially if they're building off of like a leap forward into space and into this Mario universe. It would allow us to explore character backstories naturally because Partners in Time takes place both with adult Mario and Luigi and Peach, and with baby Mario and Luigi and Peach and all of them. So you would just naturally get explorations into character backstories that way. It would further build upon the themes of both space travel and time travel, which would be huge, especially if both of those themes are built up on already in the second movie. And I think it would build up even more of an interesting connection and interpretation of space-time by introducing time travel and space travel simultaneously, because the space travelers, the Shroobs, are also time travelers. The Shroobs are time travelers, or at least Mario and Luigi have to travel through time in order to be the space aliens who are invading the Mushroom Kingdom. It also introduced Professor Egad and his technology, which are big parts of Luigi's Mansion, and would help further bridge that gap between maybe doing a Luigi's Mansion movie in the future. Is introduce Egad and his bonkers technology by having him invent the time machine that he does invent in Partners in Time. Egad does have a fairly prominent role in Partners in Time. And that would just be a really great way to introduce him and his technology, if not through a Luigi's Mansion side movie. I also think it would be very important for Sunshine fans too, just having Egad be there, because Egad made the Flood and Egad made Bowser Jr.'s Paintbrush. I think it would further expand upon the significance of the baby characters in a Mushroom Kingdom setting. And I think it would make way for Yoshi's Island stuff, because it also establishes like a lot of Yoshi stuff as well with the Shroobs. So it could even have Yoshi be the one to take care of the baby characters for a bit, since Yoshi himself is introduced in the second movie. And I think that would just be like a really great way to have a Yoshi's Island sort of tribute section in the movie. And it would just be a very natural way to bring in a brand new lore, just like expanding on Rosalina's storybook in the film and expanding on Princess Peach's arrival in the Mushroom Kingdom. It would just be interesting and fun and a fantastic celebration for the franchise, as well as just because the Shroobs, in case you don't know or maybe aren't aware, the Shroobs are like this huge menace. They literally, like, basically they suck the blood out of toads to power their technology. And you see that happen in game. And it's so creepy for a Mario game. It's so cool. The aura that the Shroobs have is legendary. And I would love to see a movie depiction of that. It would just be a fantastic, like, celebration and just cool experience for people who don't think that the Mario franchise has that kind of cool story element to it. Oh, the Northern Lights can be seen outside my apartment right now. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna get through this pretty quick. But Jack, you might be saying, you're crazy. Like, that's the biggest counter argument you can give, is that there is no hecking way that they would ever do this. You're crazy for thinking this, Jack. You're a nut job. And to that, I would just say, you're right. But also, the first movie was also pretty crazy. We got hints of so much new lore in the first movie. We got cuts to so much forgotten, and by forgotten I just mean like C to D list Mario games. Like, who cares about Wrecking Crew, bro? Like, who gives a rip? Me? I do, because I care about that dumb stuff. Who cares about the Super Show? I do. I love that they did a thing about that. And I think the fact that we got an entire Super Show callback section in the first movie, front and center, I'd argue is way crazier than referencing or calling back to the RPGs that were made in Japan. Like, I think that the people who make these movies care a lot about the franchise itself and like respecting the more hardcore, the more long-time fans. This is significantly more the case than what I would have thought possible back in 2002, back when we were still speculating about the original Mario movie. And I think that if this movie is meant to be a celebration of the 40 years of the franchise's history, I think there's a non-zero chance that they want to do something big with this movie series too. And like recently, meaning like over the past console generation recently, Nintendo's really gotten their crap together when it comes to Mario. Like, yeah, you could talk about like anti-consumerism and stuff like that, but in terms of the actual games and how they've actually been treating the Mario brand, we've never been more back, in my opinion. Like the so-called age of bland Mario that like Paper Mario fans back in the 2010s would talk about, that's over. That's gone now. We've moved on past that. We have story in Mario again. We have lore in Mario again. We have lore in Mario side games again. We have lore in Donkey Kong Bonanza that I can't even begin to wrap my head around, mainly because I haven't completed that game yet, but I still need to. The age of bland Mario is over. The new and exciting is here. And I think that Nintendo is getting bold enough to take that kind of push. And there's still a little bit of time to dream about what could be. So forgive me, but I'm gonna dream big. I'm gonna predict big. So that if this ends up happening, I get to be the one to point and say, look what I said back in like 2025. Maybe not all of my predictions will come true. Maybe only like one or two will come true. But I don't want this to seem as if like this is what it'll take for Nintendo to satisfy me. I will be satisfied with far less. The first movie was not perfect, in my honest opinion, but it was significantly more than what I was expecting. I was very satisfied with that first movie, and I just wanted to share like my ideas, my speculation, and my excitement about something that just personally means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you too. I hope you feel free to share any ideas or pipe dreams that you have. What do you guys think? Like, what are some of your craziest ideas? You can share them in chat, or when this comes on YouTube, you can type them in the comments down below. By that point, the Mario Galaxy Direct will probably be out, but like, I don't know, you can tell me in the comments how right or how wrong I was, or how cool this concept would be, because that is what I would do. But I think that is basically the end of my stream for tonight. What do you think? That's my big Mario movie rant. That's my idea of what I'd want to do. I do think that this series could eventually cross over with The Legend of Zelda. I think a lot of that would depend on what they do with the Zelda movie, but frankly, the Mario franchise and the Zelda franchise share enough ideas and locations and items and things, magical objects of that nature, to where it is far from impossible that a Mario and Zelda crossover could happen, like just even strictly in the universe of the games. That is possible, and I could get into like the how or the why. Basically, it comes down to Warp Whistle and Lost Woods. Both of those things exist in both of those franchises and have been used to go to different places. in either one of those series or both. Like, the ideas at play are highly compatible, and it's something fans would love to see, I think, frankly, if they could make it work with the Zelda timeline or whatever. But in the world of the cinematic universe, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At least not as much, because I feel like the what they're trying to do with the Zelda universe for the movie is completely different, or could be completely different from the established Zelda timeline, which I do think is real. But yeah, I think that's enough of me talking around and all that. I gotta go look at some Northern Lights. I gotta look at some Aurora Borealis. But until then, I've been Jack the Raccoon. I'll see you soon. Have a happy Mario Galaxy movie direct watching. Happy Mario movie direct predicting day. Hope you have a great rest of your week too. Hopefully I'll be back this weekend with LeBob racing more Super Mario Galaxy 2. So look forward to that. But until then, I am Jack the Raccoon. I will see you soon. So until then, bye-bye.